And welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we dig in deep to analyze the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe 1 minute at a time. I'm Andy Nelson from thenextreel.com.
And I'm Pete Wright, also from The Next Reel.
We are still talking about Jon Favreau's 2008 film Iron Man, back where it all began. And we have our guest with us again, Lorraine Dahm-Milligan from Legible Scrawl. Welcome back.
Hi, Lorraine.
Hello.
Thank you so much for sticking with us another round. Today, we are digging into minute 15, which starts with Rhodey in a drunken tirade and ends with Tony respectfully doing something. Not sure what, but something.
It's an amazing cliffhanger.
It really is. What is it? What is it? As we were talking about yesterday, this minute, it has a certain tone to it. I think certainly the extended version of this scene, I would say, is a little more painful to watch. What do you guys think?
The extended scene is definitely ranks more grody as far as flight attendants as objects versus people. It gets cleaned up a little bit in the
theatrical cut?
Yes. Yes. But at the same time, you sort of feel like any flight attendant who is okay with working on a plane that has a retractable dancing pole perhaps is making a lifestyle choice. And right. I won't shame her for that.
I am sure that I laughed in the theater when I saw this. I find it really hard to laugh right now, but I think the effect is the same. Like, it's just showcasing how gross this lifestyle is. Like you're saying, it's gross for Rhodey and Tony. The thing that maybe is the grossest for me is not the fact that they're doing it. It's not the fact that there is this whole atmosphere that they've set up to be this kind of club scene, this dance scene it's very sexual and kind of overtly kind of hormonal. It's the fact that Rhodes and Tony aren't paying attention to it. You know what I mean? Like, that's like a layer of offense on top of offense. As the camera pulls back, the women are dancing here and Rhodes and Tony are just talking. And I don't know, what is the environment supposed to be? Is it a show for them? And in the extended scene, we get to see that it's much more of a dance for service, like for services, expected.
Right.
Yeah, it ends up having that strip club vibe, where they're casually watching, but also in the middle of a conversation. And so it ends up feeling pretty gross. And it's frustrating. And it's so much worse in the extended version. Mm-hmm. When, Trixie sits on Tony's lap and ties his tie around his eyes and takes him for a turn down service. It's like, oh, wow, really? Yeah. And then the other two end up with Rhodey, and it's like, man, I don't know. I'm not sure. Tell us all about all the planes you fly. Yeah. It's like,
and what does Rhodey try to say? Like, he has a line like, have you ever seen a B-1 bomber or something? And it just reeks of just like, you don't know how to play this game, man. You are not equipped to be in this situation.
I think it was supposed to be an anatomy joke.
Yeah. It just landed hard.
It had a soft landing.
It was not good. Ouch.
At least the three actresses who play the flight attendants got more lines and got a little more to do, yes. I guess that's the win, if there's anything, by watching the extended version. But it's
bittersweet that they were then cut. I don't know. Is that insult to injury?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, to betray my gender on this next point, I do feel like it was just meant to show Tony's extraness again. It's not one flight attendant, it's three. Yeah. They know his taste, so apparently this has happened before. The dancing pole is very gadgety, if you want to call it that. So, I mean, it makes sense. It's just not something that I enjoy, I guess.
Yeah. Right. The extended version, this scene comes to an end, which I have to chuckle at when I watch it. It's like the next morning, I guess you could say, or later on the flight as far as it goes. Rhodey has a terrible hangover, and Tony is wearing just the most pompous robe that I've ever seen.
Yes.
It is so bad with his hair slicked back. I mean, this is the epitome of that pompous playboy who has flight attendants who he sleeps with on his plane.
It's like it was a gift from Hugh Hefner.
Totally.
Yeah. And then he's eating all those pastries, and it's just, he looks sticky, and there's all that sticky food, and just
gross. So gross.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but okay, so in the film though, if you remove the extended scene, so we have our two guys and the plane, we cut to the plane flying, and then we are in Afghanistan. We are at Bagram Air Base, which is an actual place, although we're not actually there in the film. They are, of course, still at Edwards Air Force Base, which is just fantastic. A great use of locations over and over again.
That's right. Everybody turn around. That's pretty much what they did. They turn around and there are mountains. Behind them is that building.
And if you look closely at it, you can kind of tell the digital work on the scene is a little rough with some of those mountains that are behind them. It's kind of like the desert line, and then the bluish mountains kind of going up behind them. So it's not as clean as I think they could be making it nowadays.
I'm surprised they didn't throw a little set decoration on there. The actual Air Force Base has, I guess, a ton of destroyed and mangled old Soviet and Afghan airplanes and stuff, and I think that would have been cool to see.
Oh, yeah, that would have been neat. I wonder if that would have been one of those things where they're like, it might make people like raise too many questions. Like, was there a war here?
Yeah, right. That's a really good point, because they did, right? I mean, that's what those are from.
Yeah, right.
There was a war there. It was a very different context.
There's always been a war.
Exactly, yeah.
He gets off the plane, Tony gets off the plane, and he meets General Gabriel, played by Bill Smitrovich, who, man, is this guy one of those faces who has just been everywhere. I have been seeing him since the 80s, but man, really the 90s was when he really seemed to be in a lot of stuff that I was watching. And Life Goes On, the TV show, like I watch that all the time, and I know him, I think, probably the most from that show of all places.
He wasn't he Dad?
Yes. Did you ever watch that show, Lorraine?
I did not.
What? Oh. What? I'm shocked and awed.
I know.
You missed out. It was a great show. I loved it. And yes, he was Dad. And it's so funny because I never have put two and two together when I see him as the general. But I always feel like when I see him, like there are some actors who play generals and they look like really gruff generals. And he's one of those guys who I see and he fits in the role of general, but he always seems like a nice general.
Oh, he's a general.
More of a paperwork general.
We think that the guy behind him, the Afghan soldier, we think that the one with the big beard and the hair is David Yukon. He's uncredited, so it's not confirmed, but looking around, that seems to be who people think he is. A little bit of ADR dialogue with Tony. And then the other actor, I couldn't figure out who was playing him. An unknown, unfortunately. But there are a lot of unknowns here, a lot of extras running around here at the base.
I love the base. Do you want to talk a little bit more about the extended sequence? Because the landing at the base it actually gives us some nice color and context to what they were seeing, and a little bit of pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he gets off the plane and he's greeted, and in the extended sequence they then go into, we get to see this nice low camera tracking across, and we see that the Air Force Honor Guard is actually meeting them, in addition to all the base soldiery that are there shaking hands and saluting. And the Honor Guard does their full routine with the rifles, and the Saber Guard comes down the middle, and they do the full precision rifle routine, which I just adore. I mean, I think it's just such a neat showcase of fine movements, and I love the sound that comes with it, and I'm very disappointed that they cut it.
It's one of those things where I watch it and I'm like, well, this is one of those things that they filmed with no intentions
for the
of ever
deleted
including
scene.
it.
Yeah, right.
Holy cow, a minute and a half of watching the drill team flipping their guns around. But you know what it reminded me of? What did it remind you guys of?
Oh, now I don't know. You put me on the spot.
Lorraine, does it remind you of anything? Any other movie?
The one it reminds me of the most is one probably very few people have seen, which is The Lord's Discipline.
Oh, totally.
A terrible movie made from a wonderful book.
I haven't even heard of that movie, so that's not what it was reminding me of.
Yeah.
I was thinking of the opening of A Few Good Men, because this is exactly how it opens.
Yeah, it has a more deserving place in A Few Good Men, too.
Well, and it's the opening credits, and it's shot so much better.
Yeah.
This is not shot very well. It's pretty boring to watch.
Well, it's one of those things. Like, they did it as a nod to the Air Force, that thank you for letting us use this, and here are some people who are going to get a kick out of being in a deleted scene in a movie.
Exactly.
But I still thought it was cool.
I always wonder what the work and the cost is to film something like that and then not use it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stuff, I mean, the Air Force Base is letting them use their place, and they're casting a lot of the extras from their people. And I feel like some things like that, they're like, you know what, they're going to want us to film their honor guard. It'll take us a couple hours. We'll get it. We probably won't use it, but at least it'll please them. And I feel like it's just one of those things that if it's something that you can do to placate them in order to secure a location a little better, then it's probably may end up being worth it,
Totally.
Yeah.
Grease the skids, baby.
Exactly. At the Air Force Base here, we have the Boeing C-17 Globemaster III in the background there. And plus, there's a Boeing Vertol CH-46 Sea Knight, a Lockheed Martin F-16 Fighting Falcon, and the Sikorsky CH-53E Super Stallion, all in the background. Not to mention tons of Humvees, a stack of missiles. I think that you can see the Jericho right there. And it looks like kind of a local transport vehicle kind of rolling through there. It didn't look like an actual military vehicle. It's kind of that cheap-looking Jeep thing with a bunch of people standing in the back.
I liked how all the plane names sounded like high school football teams.
I'd like to say I knew all of that, but I actually found it all from the Internet Movie Database turned people into like fans of finding things and logging things, because there not only is there the Internet Movie Firearms Database and the Internet Movie Car Database, but there's the Internet Movie Airplane Database, which is where I found all of that. Yes, so that's all there, and of course Tony's plane. And is that his, I was trying to look at the side of the stairs, and I couldn't decide if that's his crest again, his family crest, or if that's something for the Air Force. But
I don't know.
Guessing it's the Air Force.
I was looking at that too, because there are a bunch of them. You know what? It's the seals of all of the branches of the military. I think we have the Air Force seal with the wings, and there's a Marine seal. There's one with like a moon. Like a half moon. That's the Goodnight Moon seal. It's all very official.
The Goodnight Moon.
Yeah, the official. The Goodnight Moon official seal of the military.
Goodnight Moon.
Goodnight Moon. Good night, Bagram.
Good night, room. Good night, Bagram. The shot when he's getting off the plane, though, is a great one, where you can kind of see that funky tail of the plane, where it does look like there's an intake for a little funky tail engine there.
It's so cool. It's much cooler on the ground than it is in the air, weirdly. At least this shot.
I love this plane. It's a great one.
But then we get to the ultimate weapons demonstration hero shot and cliffhanger for this minute.
It really is. Yeah, we cut to the location that we're at. We're now over at the Kunar province, which is where we were at the beginning of the film. And again, this is Lone Pine, California, by the Alabama Hills, where Tony is standing. And I wanted to talk about time for a quick minute. We talked a little bit about how long it took to fly over and everything. In the script, it said that they leave at 2 p.m. In the, I think somewhere in the deleted scene, he says, it's 11 a.m. That means it's 11 p.m. there or whatever.
And one of the flight attendants says, "Good morning."
Right, exactly. Okay, so just logistically, I'm just trying to sort through this to see if it makes any sense. So if they leave at 2 o'clock and say that he's gotten this plane where he's getting there in 13 hours, let's just say. So if they take off at, let's say 1:30, they're going to get to Bagram Air Base at 2:30 LA time, which it's 11 and a half hours time difference. I don't know how you get a half hour different in time zones, but it is. It's 11 and a half hour difference from LA. So that means they're arriving at 2 p.m. on day 2. Going to the Kunar province is from Bagram Air Base. It's a little ways away. So say that it takes them 30 minutes to get organized. It's a 3.5-hour drive, basically, from Bagram to the border of Kunar province. And then say they go another hour or a half hour into it. That puts it at 6:30 on day 2. They do a test for an hour, get back on the road, say it's 7:30. That's 8 a.m. LA time on day 2. And that's when they get attacked. And so 36 hours, which we know at the beginning of the film says 36 hours earlier, that would be about 8 o'clock, which I guess works for the awards ceremony, right?
8 o'clock p.m. the night before.
p.m. Day 0.
Day 0,
it would be 36
right.
hours, a day and a half before. So 8 p.m., that would work for an awards ceremony and when he's gambling.
Okay.
Right?
But
that makes sense.
Well, it does. Although, let's go. Can we skip forward again or forward back again to the actual weapons demo? You said the weapons demo, they would be, what time would that be in Afghanistan?
Well, and okay, so this is something that maybe we should talk about in our next minute, because we do get a phone call, right?
Right. But I don't know
so
about that.
Should we save that for next minute?
I'm just looking at where the sun is. Like you just said, I thought it was 7 o'clock.
Well, 6:30 p.m., which it does seem awfully late.
Awfully late. That it should be awfully late, and yet that sun is very, very high. I mean, just by the shadows, I understand it's hot, but
it's like a midday sun.
Those shadows aren't very long on the rocks by him. They aren't very long. I'm just saying, this is the stuff for a movie by minute podcast.
Yeah, and looking at Tony, I mean, it's not toppy, but it's definitely hitting him from one side.
What latitude is the Kumar province? Because that would...
34.84 degrees north, 71.09 degrees east.
Right.
We've got some work to do, people.
The specific position that the sun was.
Internet movie time zone sun.
Internet movie database.
Yes.
For sunrise and sunset.
Internet, come on.
Well, we will continue deliberating on this. We've got a couple more minutes where we've got some scenes that play with this. So we'll keep stewing on this and see if we can get some more clues and figure it out. Another key thing that's introduced here, first of all, you've got this fantastic scene with Tony. I think it's a great cut, again, to him isolated, standing in front of the mountain range and just kind of delivering his pitch, which is just so beautifully written. Is it better to be feared or respected? I say, is it too much to ask for both? I mean, he's got such a cocky swagger. Yeah. The way that he does
This is his Make America Great Again speech.
It really is.
Right? This is the Make America Great Again speech. They say the best weapon is one you never have to fire. I respect, and that's the end
all
of our
we get, right? But this is the introduction of the repulsor technology. He talks about their proprietary repulsor technology in the Stark Industries Freedom line. And that...
Okay, I just have to ask, though, what in this was the repulsor doing?
That's a great question. I don't know.
You can kind of see it. It's glowing in the nose of each of the little Jericho pods.
I think the repulsor technology, because that's what he uses. He'll develop that. Tony develops the repulsor technology to fly. That's what he has in his hands and in his feet. And so he's repulsing himself along. And so potentially it's also repulsing the missile to actually make it fly.
The propulsive force for the missile. But I was wondering if that's one of the ways that it has such a massive explosion, is that when it actually hits, it's more akin to the repulsor that it comes out of his hands when he's using it as a weapon. Like it actually hits and blows stuff up.
That's possible. We'll have to talk about that more tomorrow, though.
I wouldn't know because I haven't seen that minute yet. All right.
It's just conjecture at this point.
It's just conjecture. We assume Tony has one hell of a display. We'll find out tomorrow.
If he were to build an Iron Man suit, he would probably have weapons in the hands.
And it would be the best one.
Oh, my. Yes. I just have to jump back real quick to the airplane real quick, because there's one note that I had that I laugh at now, and I'll probably stare at this every time I watch the minute. When we are on Tony and Rhodey as they're drunk under this TV screen, and the camera slowly pulls back, you see a blanket thrown over the side of the couch that has embroidered on it the word Stark. And I just have to say, that looks like some of the sloppiest embroidery I've ever seen. all of the cloth around it is so pinched in. It's like,
You're totally right. It's so sloppy. It was done by this machine that just took no account for the fabric, Andy.
It's done by the machine that they use to sew the name on the back of your Mickey Mouse ears.
It's what Happy got for his 10-year anniversary.
That's right.
Oh, Tony, what a giver. Well, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else that with this minute? It's a fun-filled minute.
I am dying to see how this weapons demo turns out.
Yes.
Lorraine, thank you again so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you?
I can be found at Legible Scrawl and Monday Matinee for more of my melodious voice. And if you care to hear about me and my battles with writer block, you can go to tickledink.blogspot.
Fantastic. Well, let's put a fork in it for today. That's it for today's show, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to the show for free at marvelmovieminute.com. Join us over in our Discord chat room and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Next Reel. If you like what we do and you want to support us and get some cool stuff in return, why don't you become a patron over at patreon.com/thenextreel. Until next time, true believers.